Welcome back for another PTO Leaders Chat. I am Christina Heidick, and with me once again is our fabulous Karen Joyce. How you doing, Karen?
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Today I thought we would do something, it's not really that different because I like to talk about motivational and inspirational things, but I want to talk about like how to be a more awesome leader, or how to be an awesome leader, I guess, not more, because you have to start with being awesome and then you can add to, right?
Yeah, because we all want to be super awesome.
Well, I think nobody wants to suck it up as a leader. Like that would be embarrassing.
Yes, I agree. None of us get into this to be like mediocre either. Like we want to be knocking it out of the park every time we can.
Yeah, but don't you think there is some baseline of awesomeness already?
Yes, because the paycheck never matches the hours that we put into this. So absolutely, I think just showing up is a whole level of awesomeness in itself.
Yeah. So the baseline of, I guess we were talking before about the baseline of awesomeness. Jump back right into there. I think at some level, like anybody who steps up to be a PTA or PTO volunteer is already kind of awesome, because there are so many stinking parents who just like don't.
That's right. Yeah, just putting your skin in the game is a huge step forward.
Yeah. And I am like, it doesn't matter how many years that I have been doing this. I am always amazed by the parents who just want it all without doing a thing, or like, but it's not just PTO. It's like some other things going on, to anything that requires like people to do something. I think they want more than they wish to do.
Yes, absolutely. You go, wow, it'd be nice to just be oblivious until the end of the year and not know what's going on and all the different things that you kind of help with and put your time and energy into throughout the year. But that's why we're special people, these PTA, PTO people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the internet is still not going to cooperate with us today, but we're just going to soldier on through, Karen. So
Okay.
this might be a video for people to listen to and not watch, because your video and audio is still not synced up. And we've had so many tech issues this morning. I'm like, just screw it. We're just going to keep on keeping on. So, but I do think there are definitely ways to like up level. And so that's kind of what I wanted to pick your brain about, some of the things that you thought, and share some of my ideas and bounce them back and forth. So I'll go first. So, and this is something I struggle with, and that is to listen more than you talk.
That's such a hard one. I caught myself just last week at our board meeting going, I'm going to stop talking now, and just trying to throw it back to them, because you get in a role and you get so excited and you have ideas. And then we have a new board. And I think it's kind of that new period too, where they didn't want to jump right in. And I don't like awkward silence. I don't like those big long pauses. And I have to force myself to do that sometimes so that everybody can chime in too.
Yeah. And I've noticed that even in our conversations, since we've started recording these videos, I cut you off a lot. So let me apologize.
No.
Like when I go back through and I'm editing, I'm like, oh, she had something there. I could see it in your eyes, and I cut you off. So apologies.
See, I'd probably talk all day. So we wouldn't ever wrap up any conversation if you didn't do that.
Well,
So,
I think that we are two peas in a pod about that, Karen, though. That's why we are dangerous. Dangerous. But I think that's why probably we enjoy PTO stuff so much, because I think that is part of our natural charm. I think we are both very charming people. Like, people have told me that I'm very engaging and like just like that. For the most part, I have a positive energy. For the most part, there are some days, like last week, when I had 0 volunteers show up, even though they had gotten a reminder email from me the night before. I was mad. That's a conversation for another time, though, because we were talking about how to be awesome. And
but you still pulled it off, didn't you? You still showed up and you still made it great for the kids, or whatever the event was.
I did.
And you filled the gap.
I did. You were right. I had staff members who recognized that I was like really underwater. They jumped in, and I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But still like sending, I want to kill messages through the universe to those 3 slackers who, it's like, why sign up if you're not going to show up? Like, why?
Right.
Why? Do you think other people will do it? In this case, I was left high and dry and I was texting people like, can you please come? Husband, can you please come? And yes, the kids had a great time, but that's not the point. But I
But
guess
you
it's
had
because,
the community to fall back on because you're an awesome leader and you have built those relationships with staff members and you have a network outside. So I think that's another component of being awesome is that you realize that this is a people networking thing and that getting along with people and building those relationships can kind of bail you out and make sure that everything keeps running.
absolutely, absolutely love that you just spun that so positively. So yeah, so uh, yeah, listening, but you have to talk to establish those networks. So I guess, yes, you just have to find that right balance. And that's for all people who are talkers, that's a fine line to walk, I think. So,
It is. It
yeah.
is. But
What do you,
listening to different sides of things too. Yeah.
yeah. So what do you have on your list for how to be an awesome leader?
Okay, well, this kind of it was kind of like in stemming some situations that tend to come up with PTAs and PTOs. I think the more you can focus on like your mission and keep things almost at a professional level, it stems a lot of that drama and that devolving between like board members and things. Like it's a fun professional environment, but I've never been in a board meeting where we just start gossiping or going off on tangents because we have business to do. Like there's not time for that. Like we have an agenda. It's super fun. We still like have a great time together, but it's not just willy-nilly. And so I think having that organization, I think you mentioned as a leader too, like just being ready to work kind of thing instead of this is just a social engagement for us.
Yeah, no, I think that is so great because so many groups deal with trauma, and sometimes it's like
Mhm.
person specific that, that it's being driven by. And once you remove that personality, so go your problems. Like that was, I think I've mentioned to you before that I've had a pretty easy year this year because a lot of those problem parents, their youngest graduated. And so we were able to say, bye-bye. Thanks so much. See you back never.
Thank you.
That was a good thing. Thank you so much. On the other hand, we will not miss that you raised an issue about, like, we had one parent who she would not, she felt like we were going to be poisoning kids if we gave them past date chips.
That's not how that works.
Yeah. And she was like, it's illegal and whatever. And we're just like, we're not selling them, we're giving them away. And she, like, major issue, major, like, this is a health board, we're gonna get written up. And I'm like, okay, no. Okay, she's bye-byes. So we don't miss her.
Yeah.
But in that case, we all had to learn, which was one of my issues that I wanted to highlight, was you have to learn how to work cooperatively with people, even if you have someone on your board who thinks that chips are going to poison kids.
Yes. And I think like setting out and like the way you approach like the board as a leader too can help with that as well. Like if you make everything kind of a group effort, like fundraising is not up to only the fundraising chair. We all do this together. It can help you kind of make sure that your team is really working where their time and talents are matched. And it's not, then you don't feel like you're demoting somebody or moving people around. It's we're all doing it together. And being an awesome leader is knowing that not everybody's going to be good at every single skill. People
Yeah.
have different, things that they're really good at. And so trying to highlight those and moving them kind of into positions where they can shine, where they can feel valued, where they can bring something to the table is so critical.
It is. And that can be so hard if you're friends with people and they want a certain position, but you're like, they're going to suck it up at that. Like I've totally been
Mhm.
guilty of this where I had a friend and she really wanted to be the fundraising chair. And I was just like, like, no, because she was too, like, all over the place. And I was like, that's too big of a thing to risk. Because if it gets
Mhm.
messed up, you're kind of done for. Like, that's just one position that you can't mess around with. You got to know what you're doing, got to have a plan. And yeah. So
But
I
I
guess
bet
connect.
if you dealt with her, you were like, but I bet, you would be really awesome at secretarial work because you come to all the meetings, or you could write things down, or I'm sure you had an idea in your mind to spin that into a positive, to say, yo, you know what, your talents would much better fit this position, and I think you would be happy doing this,
Yeah.
right?
How I saw that issue was that I just volunteered to do fundraising that year, even though I didn't want to do it.
About yourself.
I was just like, well, I'll do it. Well, because I figured I was a better option. It's like I knew what I could do. And she
Yeah.
grew into a more confident leader, but in a better leader. But it just at that point, no. I was just like, nope. So yeah, I didn't do it the way I don't know that we knew each other back then, Karen. So I didn't have your counsel to be like, here's how you do this.
No, it's hard. It's hard with those interpersonal relationships, but I think that's what a lot of this comes down to, because there isn't a paycheck. There's no other carrot other than you get the warm and fuzzies. You know you're doing good things for your kids, your school, your community. And so it has to be beneficial to you as a person. And people don't want to work with craziness and, drama and clickiness. And so being a leader is really building those relationships.
Yeah. I think part of that is too, with people that you don't agree with in those situations, which could kind of go into the crazy area or the really high drama area, is that if you're just respectful and not dismissive, like I've seen so many times, like personally, I know I've shared about this one really divisive leader. She in front of everybody was so snarky to another leader from a different, it was a PTA Founders Day, and she like called up all the presidents, and she was council president. She like just said something so snarky to the one president that she didn't like. And I was just like, dude, you can't just like pull it together. You're on like public display. Like the superintendent is here. The building principals are here. Like everybody who's anybody in the school district is here pretty much. And you can't like pull it together. And she was not a good leader, Far from awesome, Karen.
Far from awesome. There's always room for growth, right? I think that's one thing too. Like knowing that your awesomeness can grow. Like don't beat yourself up. Being an awesome leader is having grace with yourself and trying to do better the next time. I know we've talked about like, troubles you've gotten into, or how do you work through problems, or as a leader. And so just acknowledging that and moving on and doing better, knowing better, doing better.
Yep. Absolutely. Do you want to share something else from your list?
Well, I kind of may have said this, but I didn't really talk about it. But we really try in our unit to talk about our mission statement. So every agenda talks about the mission, because I think a lot of times it's grown-up dramas that derail things. And to be an awesome leader, keeping us focused on why we're there, gets decisions made quicker. It makes things just less complicated. And people realize the value and the time and the energy they're spending when they're like, it's for these kids. And so to kind of make sure that that's at the forefront, and that you're sharing that often with all of your other volunteers and with faculty, it just helps make everything run so much smoother when you all have the same vested interest for the kids.
Yeah, I think that is a great tip, Karen. It's one I've never had the opportunity to use, but I think that I can see, with all the different leaders who contact me personally or share in the PTO Superstar Leaders Facebook group, like they would be good to use that tip like a lot. I think that would go really far and really would help people. So that's an excellent viewpoint. So, well, next on my list was that you need, as to be like a really awesome leader, you need to communicate clearly. I think if you're not, I try and communicate really clearly, and I'm rather to the point and don't try to mess around and try to be respectful. So there's a combination of all my tips there. But I think if you're not communicating, then people don't know what's up, and they're not going to be able to read your brain. So
yeah, and to try and figure out how other people that you work with communicate best. Like my principal, I know, wants face-to-face communication time. That's his like love language. I can send bulleted emails day and night, and I'm not going to get the same movement forward on what we need to do without a 30-minute face-to-face meeting. And it took me a little while to figure out that that's how I had to deal with like our communication style. Whereas with the board members, I can like bullet, highlight, send emails, and they're like,
Yeah.
I just want to know what has to get done and when it has to get done by. So learning those different communication pathways or styles is, critical too.
Yeah, that's interesting that they have time for that.
Really and truly, like even during the summer, be like, can you come in? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
We can meet face to face, and we can have all the conversations. So that's just how they like to interact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's good also to get that, to know that for your board members, because not all board members are comfortable with technology. I have a really good friend who's a former president who the she was vice president. The president stepped down mid-year because he had it. That's really a story for another day. That's an interesting situation. He was the husband of the former council president, and it was like a puppet presidency, if you know what I mean. Really
Mm,
interesting. And yes, so she unintentionally became president, I will say, not exactly willingly. And she was like a lower elementary school teacher in the past, like before she had kids, and she's not good with tech, like not good with technology at all. And so I had to
yeah.
help her and um, help her with certain things, like show her, like, here's how to use this and that. So you can't just assume that everyone's going to be knowing like what GroupMe is or how to use GroupMe or how to use all the things. Like you have to ask them individually, and I would do it privately because I think that's something that people might get embarrassed about. Do you know?
Yeah, I actually sent our brand new board like a welcome survey. It was a Google form. And I tried to put some of that, like figure out how they like to communicate. Do they like hard copies? Do you want a big notebook with like a data dump of things? Or you're like savvy with Google workspace and all of our file system. And one thing I put on there too was trying to get a gauge their text messaging, because people have very strong opinions sometimes about group text messages. And you said GroupMe, we are not that savvy yet. We just ping each other. But my questions were like, send me all the texts. I love to be in the know. It's my love language. Or I understand the utility as long as it's used appropriately. Or for the love, this is a volunteer position. I don't want 8,000 dings, people thumbs upping. It just gave me a pulse point. Oh, and my fourth choice was, I have never in my life thought about a personal opinion about group text messaging. So it just kind of gave me a little bit more insight, even without a first face-to-face, of how do people like to communicate? How do you get things done efficiently, effectively, without driving people absolutely crazy? Because you can
Yeah,
do it.
that's another great idea, Karen. See, I think part of my issue is I have a really advanced level of comfort with the majority of my board because I've been working with them for over a decade in some cases.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
it is it is, but also like for future planning, I'm like, okay, so like Stephanie is done next year and she's like an overachiever leader and she's my PTO like love, like I don't know, my superhero, and I look up to her a lot. And so I'm like, okay, so Stephanie's leaving. Well, her youngest child is graduating, not really leaving. And I'm like, what does that look like? I was like, we have one more year with her. Things are going to have to change. So I was kind of like forecasting out how to make the same things happen without a huge doer, you
Yeah.
know?
Big
So
shoes to
not,
fill.
yeah, it's gonna be hard. I know she's looking forward to it. Lord knows she's earned it. She has 4 kids. And so yeah. So but yes, that's what's on my forecast for this next year is getting my last year in with my
Oh,
superstar person. So um yeah, so the last thing on my list was just to get organized because that is, I think, the fundamental way to keep track of everything is to get organized. And whether you are a paper person and you want to get, like, for example, if you're president, if you want to get the president success kits, you can get a super beautiful binder, like all the pieces parts where you just have to print, punch holes, insert into a 3-ring, and then customize with your own, like your own group's information. or if you want to use it digitally, or if you have another system, but there are so many things to track. And I think if you don't have, uh, we've been saying baseline again, but like there is like a baseline level of organization that you need to know and what you need to have all the information to like go off of, like having all of
Mhm.
your boards contact information or their addresses. So if you need to drop off a check or pick something up, you're not like texting them going, wait, which one is your house again? Like getting that information at the get-go so you have it and then share it with everybody in your group, like your board and committee chairs, not like publishing it. So,
Yeah. No, and I think one of those things, and when we first installed as a unit, this was our state person that kind of came in and gave us some tips. And one thing they suggested was to have a number sheet. So that's the first thing in all of our notebooks. It's got our EIN number, it's got the school's phone number, it's got like our tax exempt codes, all of those things right up front, right in the same place, because you wouldn't believe how many times it comes up. And they go,
yeah.
I don't know, I got to show this to the school all of a sudden. And as I think as a president, you probably have a little bit more hands in that, but everybody kind of needs to know that at some point in time. And
Sure.
so, yeah, getting that information, sharing it out in an organized manner so that everybody can answer their own questions as much as possible. Awesome leadershipness.
Yeah, and I think sometimes kind of forcing organization on others can be a way to go because some, especially for inexperienced leaders, they don't know what they need. So handing them a done for them binder where you can say, here's like everything. So the various success kits that I have set up for the different positions offer that. They offer like, here's what every position needs, right? And then you customize with your
Mhm.
own groups like bylaws and standing rules, but just handing that to them, because if they're new, they might not know what they're doing. And like I have a friend who just got involved with PTA this year. She's a freshman, right? So she hit that her oldest is a freshman. She's had many years to be able to be like potentially, that sounds judgy. Um, I was surprised that she had never stepped up before. I'll just say that, not in a judgy way, but just like, oh, okay, you're new at this. Like everybody else in the group pretty much has been, well, everybody else in the group has been either a president or a treasurer like multiple times. So it's kind of, or like fundraising, like some high level involvement, I guess, like for years. And so I was like, wait, what do you mean you don't know any of this stuff? So I had to like give her stuff, and it was a struggle. And so this next year, I think I'm going to hand her a binder and be like, here, I've done it for you. Cause I just don't think I don't think she gets it to understand what she needs to do. So like sometimes just having it served up, it can be the way to go and to kind of give people what they need right at their fingertips, because I've tried laying it out for her in emails and it just seems to like wee. So different,
Yes.
trying something different this next year. So
That's so helpful. Yeah, because I mean, you even as a seasoned leader, you kind of start to like wash, rinse, and repeat, and you forget, oh, I should probably write down lessons learned after that event, or oh, we ordered way too many hot dogs. And so having that organization, having a place to put things, make sure that you keep things on track so that you can hand that off to the next person and you don't get caught up in your I know in my head what's going on, but the next person may not down the line. So
yeah, or you might forget year over year. Like, and it's good information to have. And so this
absolutely.
year, I was in charge of after prom and the senior send off. And so I didn't write the summary and like the, lessons learned and all that right after prom because I was exhausted. But I did it after the senior send off. And I was like, I felt really good about like, because it was fresh in my mind. So I could write everything down and really have it be complete to hand off. It's going back to Stephanie next year, probably. But I was like, well, she'll know what we did this year because we did things a little differently. We hosted the after prom at the school versus going to a location, which was a whole nother ball of wax. And so we learned a lot. And I think you know, things don't stay the same. So like for in
Mhm.
that specific instance, it used to be that I think most of the kids went to after prom. This year we had a very low turnout because one of my son's friends was like, oh, someone was having a party. And I was like, that's an interesting
Mm.
choice that those parents made, letting them go there when they'd already paid for after prom because it was bundled with the prom tickets. So it's like, okay, interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, so it is what it is. We're happy to do it for whoever shows up, but always good to not have food overages and, like consumable stuff that'll go bad that you could have just spent on something better or different.
Right.
So, so that is all on my list. Did you have anything else that you had on your list, Karen?
I think being part of the superstars leader and learning from other leaders is another way, would be my like last tip of how to be awesome, because there's always room to learn and grow and gain other ideas from other groups, or figure out how to address problems that you may be having and somebody's already figured it out. Like, we don't have to recreate the wheel. So I would say definitely like lean on those communities, learn from each other, and yeah, we're gonna take over the world as PTA PTO people.
Don't you think? I think it puts you in a better position to actually take over the roles, Karen, because I kind of think with really effective leaders, we wouldn't do such a bad job.
I think we would be a lot better off in a lot of areas of the world if the PTA and the PTO superstars all kind of stepped up leadership throughout our communities and all the places. So
yep,
yeah,
I do. So agree. So agree. So, all right. On that positive note, let's wrap this conversation up, Karen. But thank you so much for all of your insightful thoughts, and just, it was really, really awesome. So thanks so much.
always
And I hope that there I am talking over you one more time. I'm going to work on that. Really going to work on that. But I hope all of you watching have enjoyed this video. And I see that right at the end of the video, your video and audio synced up, Karen. So
Hey, I'm finally all together.
that's right. So I hope you all will join us for the next video. Bye-bye.
Want even more guidance on how to be a stronger leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA? All these resources and more are waiting for you at ptoanswers.com.